Hello and welcome to today's lesson. The learning objective is to know how to calculate the upper and lower bounds of numbers given to varying degrees of accuracy. Here is a review practice. Make sure to pause the video and give yourself time to answer these questions. Okay, I will be now moving forward. Here are the answers. Make sure to mark your work and give yourself enough time to give yourself a score out of 6. Alright, let's get into the main crux of this lesson. So, the question asks us to round these numbers to the nearest 10 and writing the upper and lower bounds of the number as well. So if we look at the success criteria, it's actually giving us the steps on how to answer this question. So the first step is to find the place value for the degree of accuracy, and that's what we're going to do now. Well, it says to the nearest 10. Well, that is just going to be, the place value is just 10. We need to halve that amount. And that gives us 5. And then if you look at step 3, it says subtract the final amount to find the lower bound. So for us to find the lower bound, all we're going to do is do 80 minus 5, and that gives us 75. So the lower bound is going to be 75, and our upper bound is going to be 85. Okay, so here's the redo, exact same steps. Okay, let's now move forward. So the answer is 245 kg for the upper bound, and for the lower bound, 235 kg. Alright, so the next question says round these numbers to the nearest 10 and write the upper and lower bounds. So the I do, well, it's to the nearest 10, so we know the place value for the degree of accuracy is 10. We need to half that amount, so that gives us 5. So our upper bound must be 435 litres and our lower bound 425 litres. So I want you now to try the redo. Right, make sure to pause the video because I will now be showing the answer. Right, here's the answer. So upper bound is 95 kg, and 85 kg for the lower bound. Alright, so this one is a different. It says round these numbers to the nearest whole number now. Okay, we need to write the upper and lower bound. So the place value for a whole number is just 1, right, or units. But 1 is what we're looking at, and what we need to do is half that amount. So 1 divided by 2 is just 0.5. So for us to find the lower bound, all we're going to have to do is subtract by 0.5, and what we end up getting is 21.5 for the lower bound. And then for us to find the upper bound, all we need to do is add by 0.5, and what we end up getting is 22.5. And that is how you do it. So I want you, for the next question, we do to do the exact same steps, but for the number 100, please. Make sure to pause the video because I will be going over the answers. Alright, so here are the answers. So the lower bound is going to be 99.5 and the upper bound is going to be 100.5. Right, this question here is different. So it says rounding to the nearest 1 decimal place. Well, the place value for 1 decimal place is a tenth, so 0.1. And what we're going to do is half that amount again. What we end up getting is 0.05. Sorry, 0.05. And then for us to find our lower bound, we're going to have to subtract. So what we end up getting for our lower bound is 5.65. And our upper bound is 5.75 because we add by 0.05. Right, let me rub this off so you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. So you're going to do the exact same thing for the redo. Make sure to pause your video, giving yourself enough time to answer this question. Right, so upper bound is going to be 14.95 and the lower bound will be 14.85. Now, for the nearest 2 decimal place. So with this question, well, 2 decimal places, the worth is 100. Okay, so we're going to have to divide that by 2. That gives us 0.005. Okay, and then for us to find our upper bound, we are going to have to add by 0.005, and what we end up getting is 0.655, and then that means our lower bound is going to have to be 0.6455. So I want you to have a go with that for the we do. Alright, make sure to pause the video because I will be going over the answers now. Okay. So let's go take a look at the answer. Upper bound is going to be 1.075 and the lower bound is going to be 0.065. Right, next question. So it says round these numbers to the nearest one significant figure. Well, we need to find the first non-zero digit. So 8 is the first non-zero digit, and all we need to do is find the place value for that. And the place value for that is in the ones, so units, and we just divide that by 2. That gives us 0.5. So that means our upper bound has to be 8.5 and our lower bound is going to be 7.5. And then again, let me clear the pen marking so you can see that clearly. So we have another question here. You are going to need to find the first non-zero digit here, which is 8, but that's all I'm going to say. Alright, so the answer for this one is going to be, upper bound is going to be 0.085, and then the other one is going to be 0.075. So let's take a look at two significant figures. So we need to find the second, we need to look at the second significant figure. So for 90, it's going to be 90.5, and it's going to be 89.5. So how they go at, do we do? Alright, so I'm going to quickly go over how to do this. So we need to look for the second non-zero figure, which is 6. The place value for that is a thousandth. Okay, it's a thousandth. So we're going to divide that by 2, and what we end up getting is 0.0005. And to find the upper bound, we're going to have to add by that amount, and to find the lower bound, we're going to have to subtract. So the upper bound is going to be 0.0265, and then the lower bound is going to be 0.0255. Okay, I'm going to be moving on to the next slide now. So here's an exam question. Make sure to pause the video and give yourself some time to answer this. Alright, so I'm going to go through the answer. So the question says, right, the weight of a bag of potatoes is 25 kg, correct to the nearest kg. Write down the smallest possible weight of a bag of potatoes. Well, it wants us to write the smallest possible weight, so that must be the lower bound. And it says to the nearest kg, so basically the nearest whole number here. So we're going to have to do 1 divided by 2, that gives us 0.5. And to find the smallest weight, we're going to have to do 25 minus 0.5 to give us our low bound. And that gives us 24.5 kg. And that will be the answer. And it says to write down the largest possible weight of bags of potatoes. So we're going to have to add by 0.5. And that's going to be 25.5 kg. Right, let's move on to the next slide. Alright, so here's the independent practice questions. Make sure to pause the video and give yourself enough time to complete all these questions. Alright, I'm going to show the answers now. Alright, we're going to be moving on to the next slide of independent practice questions. Okay, so here are the questions. Make sure to pause your video because I will be going over the answers after this. pause the video and give yourself more than enough time to answer these questions. Alright, so here are the answers. Okay. Thank you for attending this lesson. Make sure to send your teacher your work via email. Many thanks, bye.